Hello YouTube, or in this case more specifically, hello Gamergate. I've been following this thing pretty much from the beginning. Heck, I created this YouTube channel and the accompanying Twitter in large part because I wanted to help this movement. I was drawn to it because my strongest core values are fairness and justice. And here, happening right in front of me, was a legitimate grassroots movement focused entirely on combating a blatant and unacceptable form of unfairness and injustice. This was a movement I could really get behind, and I'm not the type to join movements. I don't attend protests, I don't describe myself with any isms, and I don't belong to any political party. So for me to be willing to identify completely with a movement is a pretty big deal, to me at least. So hopefully you understand me when I say that I care deeply about the future of Gamergate. I don't want to see it fail, or even worse, become something I can no longer support. I want to take a few minutes of your time to talk about the future of Gamergate. I took a couple of months off recently, and coming back, I've noticed a trend that's bothering me. When I left, the focus was very much on contacting advertisers, criticizing journalists and websites, and not touching the poop. Now the focus seems to be on criticizing individuals on the anti-Gamergate side. An outsider looking at Twitter right now would most likely conclude that the main targets of Gamergate are Jonathan McIntosh, Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, Zoe Quinn, Ian Miles Chong, and Arthur Chu. Now, what do these people have in common? They're the ones who have intentionally tried to get Gamergate to pay attention to them. McIntosh and Chu have publicly stated that they have tried to act as lightning rods for criticism, and many Gamergate supporters seem to be glad to give it to them. I think this is a mistake. We criticize the ABC report for featuring Brianna Wu, but in many ways we created her. Not a day goes by that I don't see some mention of her on my Twitter feed. Yeah, it's almost always pointing out something stupid she said or did, but why are we even bothering with that? I think if Gamergate is going to continue to be successful and productive, we need a negative exposure to people like that. The more someone wants our attention, the less they should get. If an anti-Gamergate person tweets using the Gamergate hashtag, that's a sign they want our attention, so don't give it to them. Don't tweet them, don't quote their tweets, pretend they don't exist. These people still deserve criticism, of course, but let that criticism come from outside of Gamergate. So, who should we be criticizing? I'm not naive enough to think Gamergate can survive without people to target. I've seen some calls for Gamergate to stop focusing on journalists and instead target AAA developers who are actually apparently responsible for the journalists being corrupt in the first place. That may seem like a good idea until you realize that the only way for that to work is for gamers to boycott these developers. And since every AAA developer is guilty, it means boycotting all of them. What the proponents of this plan don't seem to get is that Gamergate is largely made up of gamers, and any plan that involves gamers no longer playing the games they love is a plan that is doomed to fail. So no, targeting AAA developers is not a good plan. Instead, the target should be what it always should have been: unethical journalists, editors, and websites. Instead of tweeting about the latest example of full Macintosh, educate each other about the journalists who routinely show bias in their articles and reviews. More importantly though, really focus on the ones who are doing a good job. Every member of Gamergate should know the names of the games journalists who write fair, balanced articles, assuming those people exist. Examples of good articles should be shared widely by the Gamergate community. If a website posts an ethical policy, we should be watching them like a hawk to make sure they actually follow it and posting examples of times that they actually do it. Now, I know some people are already doing these things, but I think it just needs to happen more often. And if you're already doing these things, keep doing it. The end game in my mind is when some brave media outlets decide that this is too good a story to pass up and starts making reports about our side of the issue. For that to happen, we have to keep tweeting it and keep talking to each other. We have to be on the lookout for good ideas from unlikely places. There are a lot of smart people involved in Gamergate, but not all of them have thousands of Twitter followers. And above all else, remember, don't touch the poop. Don't let the anti-Gamergate side dictate the narrative of this movement. So we need to regroup, refocus, and continue to kick ass. Thanks for listening. Comment, like, or subscribe as you see fit, and I wish you all the best.